shame. How did the rocket get to that point? That is what you should really be concerned about. The story of your rocket's flight is just not a peak altitude number. The real story is the trajectory path that your rocket takes during the flight. Does it go straight up or does it arc over? Does it spin as it ascends? What happens once the recovery system is deployed? Where does the rocket go? How far away does it land? Will it touch down in a location where you can easily recover it? These are the answers that you can get using the Launch Visualizer. It is an app on the RockSim.com website, and you can test it out right now for free. Finally, you have a way to simulate your rockets that gives you the true information that you need to be successful. And the best part is that you don't have to walk after your rocket after it comes back down to the ground. Experience the fun. Test your rockets right now at RockSim.com. Most rocketeers seem satisfied with just being told how high their rocket flew, and that's a shame. How did the rocket get to that point? That is what you should really be concerned about. The story of your rocket's flight is just not a peak altitude number. The real story is the trajectory path that your rocket takes during the flight. Does it go straight up or does it arc over? Does it spin as it ascends? What happens once the recovery system is deployed? Where does the rocket go? How far away does it land? You got radio control in this thing.
Yeah, for the parachute.
Ranges are open.
You forgot D3.
Oops, sorry.
Not yet. We're going with mine.
Do you want them to set up the cameras or something? You going?
I don't have a card for these.
It's been a while. Hi, Tommy. You gotten any bigger yet? Come on.
I don't have a card.
Huh? I gave it to you over there. Nice up.
That was not.
I handed it to you over there before I came out. No, Jen signed off on it.
Yeah, but there's one she did.
Yeah, I gave it to you before I walked out. Dog, you set it on the t-shirts. I handed it to you.
That's nice, there's no crosswind at all out there.
Okay, what was the airspace today?
8,000 like usual.
8.
But we do have, I do hear an airplane, so hold dog.
Well, who cares?
The FAA cares. That's who.
Yeah, like once you pick me up, like the pilots.
Let him know. Yeah, there he is out there.
She loves it. My ADS
He's outside of the radius.
Don't do that, Brian! Brian's going around in circles on me.
Got a heads up here. Oh, you're fine. Watch out in the crowd back
Heads
there.
up!
Please, sir. What's gonna hit me?
Brian Houghton's steering that right into the crowd.
Perfect, man. Wow. So much better than that.
He's got a radio control in this thing.
Yeah, for the parachute.
Ranges are.
And we're live! Hello everyone, my name is Tim, and you are watching RockSim Live. I've been playing around with adding videos to the intro while we're waiting for 2 o'clock to come around. So that's what you were watching. There was an introduction to the launch visualizer, and then there was something we call the gliding parachute system, the experimental gliding parachute system. And I've got some posters on the wall, what it looks like. There's one back here as well. This is something we're working on, and we are really close to releasing it. Our scheduled release date is Tuesday, October 25. So don't tell anybody, because we got a limited number in the first run, just to see what people think of it. So what you saw there was a rocket. It was supposed to be a dual deployment, but the drogue parachute and the main parachute both came out at Apogee, and the main parachute was one of our gliding parachutes, and it was remote controlled down. It probably went, it was a high power, so it was an H motor. It probably went a couple thousand feet, not too high. You could still see it, and the cool thing about it, as you saw, was that you can land it right at your feet. So it kind of could be the end of dual deployment. Who knows? We don't. It's something we're experimenting. That's why we're calling it experimental, because we don't have all the answers yet, but it's so cool that we had to at least get it out there for people to try. So, but this is about RockSim, and RockSim is our software that allows you to design and simulate rockets, see how high they're going to go, and see where they're going to land without a gliding parachute. Because right now all rockets do not have gliding parachutes, except for those that are actually rocket gliders. But they're few and far between, because those you have to fly up as well as coming down. It just goes up, and once it doesn't do anything until the parachute opens, and then you take control. So I'm looking over here. I got a monitor that I'm monitoring the chat. So if you got a question about RoxAm, Roxanne Pro, or the launch visualizer, go ahead and ask those now. That's what we're here for, to answer those specific questions. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll go ahead and recognize those people that have already signed in. We have Alex K. from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Chris Swainston from Golden Valley, Arizona. Old Man Crust. He says, I don't use RockSim, I just guess the motors and buy them. Okay. But if it's going to be expensive, you might want to know where they're going to go. We have Al Anzik. Al's a local here to Colorado. He's from Monument, Colorado. We have Rosa from Ottawa, and Carlos K. says hello from Marietta, Georgia. Love Georgia right now. Did the hurricane affect you there, Carlos? I know it affected Florida pretty terribly, and North Carolina, but I didn't hear much about Georgia. So let me show my screen here. This is our website. This is where you can go and find RockSim. Our web address is apogeerockets.com. As you come to the main page, there's this scrolling banner bar here, and there's an ad for RockSim 10. Here's an ad for the launch visualizer, signing up for our newsletter, the Peregrine kit. I have behind me This is a new kit that's going to be released this coming Tuesday. This is called the Peregrine Junior. The regular Peregrine is 2 times this size. It's 4 inches in diameter. You can't see it, but that's what the Peregrine Junior looks like. It's a half scale of the full-size Peregrine. This one uses 24 millimeter motors. I have it here in case there's questions about rocket designing. I bring that up so I can show it. But since we're going to release that on Tuesday, thought I might as well show it off. So to learn about RockSim, go to that banner bar and just click on it, and it will take you to the RockSim 10 page. It says RockSim 10 now available, updated June 25, 2021. It's going to be updated again. I got to update this by next week because last week I announced there's going to be a new updated version. It's going to be a bug fix version and a few new features. And that is now done. I've tested it. It works. So now it's a matter of putting it up on the website so that everybody can download it. There's going to be a new version of Roxanne Pro as well, but there's one little issue in the update for that one, but we'll release RockSim. We're going to call it version 10.5. And if you want to see what's new in 10.5, you go to How To and Guides, come down here to Software, and then go to Version History. And you can see a quick view version 10.5 right here. Just click on that, and it will jump you down to the changes. So it's going to be called 10.5.0 F0. The last version that we released was 10.4. So this number, the second number after the 10, tells you features, what feature version we're on. So we were adding new features. The last thing here, the last digit, the third digit, is the bug fix version. We were going to call it 10.4.1, but we decided since there's new features to call it 10.5.0. So we update the features and we clear out the bugs. So here are the new features that added. There's some about printing documents on the mass object. We did a bunch of stuff with the mass object and parachutes, and I'll show you that in a second here. And there's also some changes that we did for installation, and then we fixed a bunch of bugs. 7 or 8 bugs that we fixed, and here's what we fixed. So currently we're, everybody says that version 10 has bugs. I can't find any more bugs. And it's been a while since I've found a bug. So if you're running version 9, upgrade to version 10. It's a free upgrade, and you get all these features. We've gone through 5 levels of adding new features since we released version 10. So version 10 had a lot of features, and then we incrementally added more features to the list. And then you can read all of those features that we added. Version 3, 10.3, 10.2, 10.1. So there's been a lot of stuff. So version 10.0 was released in April of 2020, and now we're in October of 2022, so there's been a lot of features and bug fixes. Hopefully, and I'm crossing my fingers, that this will be the last feature of version 10, because I really want to start working on version 11. And my programmers are, now that they release this last one, they're going to start adding those. When we go to a major version like 10 to 11, those are big features. Those are the things that are really fun. So I hope you enjoy them. Carlos K says, Ian missed us, so they should show more election ads. I know what you mean. I'm tired of seeing election ads. Fat Bank says hello from Texas. Texas, you're going to get another citizen next year. My youngest daughter is graduating, and she has elected to go to a university in Texas, University of Northern Texas, or University of North Texas. It's in Dallas, or just north of Dallas. That's where she has committed to. So, yeah, I'll be in Texas a little bit next year. We have Ernesto from Omaha. Cool. I got a brother in Omaha. So there's a Van Milligan in the phone book. There's not too many Van Milligans in the United States, but there's one in Omaha. That's my brother. Carlos K says, since I started using the launch visualizer, all my launches have landed in our tight field. Yeah, that's a cool endorsement. That is awesome. And that's the purpose of the launch visualizer, so you don't lose rockets. You know, it pays for itself pretty quick. And Terry Wheelock says, whoa, you started without me. Sorry, Terry, but we start at 2 o'clock. Okay, so I've gone through the list of new changes in RockSim 10. If you want to download it, you go to software, and you can download a free trial right there. I just showed you the version history, the system requirements. You can read about. There's RockSim Live training, which is what we're doing right now, and we archive all of those. And so if you click on that RockSim Live training, we are on episode number 90 today. Today is October 7th. I just clicked on the YouTube, so this was ours from last week. So I'll just click back because I don't need to see that. And it tells you what we talked about. We talked about the stability equations in RockSim, comparing Barrowman, RockSim, and the cardboard cutout. We designed a new rocket, so if you're brand new to RockSim and you just want to start designing a rocket, go to that episode and go to 26 minutes and 10 seconds into the video, and you'll find where we start designing a new rocket. We also talked about modeling an X-24 and talked about cluster configurations. Come on, so if you got a question, give it to me. I did have one that came in via email. This was from Jim Hammond. He is writing, I am completing a build of a Lock Easy Eye 65. It had been set up with a 54 millimeter motor mount. How do I go about determining if smaller motors, 29 and 38 millimeters, will be sufficient to safely fly the completed rocket? If so, how does RockSim include the mass of a 54 to 38 millimeter motor adapter or a 54 to 29 millimeter motor adapter? So this is how to use a motor adapter in RockSim. So let me open up RockSim. Okay, so here's RockSim. Let me see, I got it on the screen. I am just double checking about RockSim. So I am using version 10.5.0. So this is the brand new one that will be available next week, hopefully Monday. All we got to do is put it up on the website and point all the different links to it, so that, you know, if you go to the trial version, that's where you can download it right there at the trial version. There will be a notification once you start RockSim. If you're on Windows, this only works on Windows. There'll be a notification that says there's a new update available, and it'll give you a link to download it. You might see that on the Mac, but you actually have to go to our website and download the full version. Just download the trial version. That's where it is. Yeah. Okay, so we need a 54 millimeter rocket. We need a Lock Easy Eye 65. Easy Eye. I'm typing it in, see if I got an Easy Eye 65. There it goes. A Lock EZI 65 JTS. I don't know what JTS stands for, but we'll open it. Okay, so here's the lock EZI 65. So one of the first things that you might notice if you're using RockSim previously is now there's circles in the 2D drawing. And what those are mass objects. We did that so that you can click on them and highlight them. This is one of the new features. Let me quit on that so we don't get these notifications popping up. So you got, it's like this one here is all these mass objects, and you see these mass objects here in the parts tree. But I don't know which one it is, but if you click on them, like if I click on that one, see if I can click on it right there, it highlights it up here and it says that this mass object is the paint and the glue. If I click on that one, that's an eye bolt assembly. That one right there is a shock cord. So we did that so you can find them easier. And similarly, in the 3D view, it'll be the same thing. You'll see those components highlighted. So right now I'm clicking on the shock cord and you're seeing everything else grayed out except for that mass object. So the mass object in the 3D view is now a sphere. So if I click on the paint and the glue, here's an eye bolt assembly. It shows me where it is in the parts down here. Another change is that parachutes didn't used to show up in 3D, but now they do. They show up as cylinders, like right there. So that's a parachute. This one's set up as dual deployment, so it has two parachutes. And if you want to see the full rocket, you just click off of it. Okay, so that's the new stuff, but we're here to answer, how to do a motor adapter. So let's find the motor adapter. So it's probably, so it's inside this main tube. Launch lug, motor mount tube right there. So here's our motor mount tube, and I just want to confirm that it's a 54 millimeter, and here's where you confirm it. It says the motor diameter that fits into that tube right there is 54 millimeters. All right, so that's good. Click OK. All right, so now there's two ways of adding the motor adapters. There's an easy way and a hard way, and I'm all for the easy way. The easy way is basically what we just talked about, a mass object. Putting a mass object inside of the rocket to account for the extra weight of that item. And the reason I can use a mass object is because it's on the inside of the rocket and it doesn't affect the aerodynamics. It's only going to affect the mass of the rocket. So I can use a mass object. So I'll show you that way first. First I got to decide where I'm going to put that mass object. And let's see, we just had that motor. Okay, so the motor mount tube is highlighted. Once it's highlighted in the parts tree, you can come over here to mass object. Okay, and it looks in the database for different mass objects that are already in the database. And if I enlarge this, there might already be. So we got Aeropack retainers, 38 millimeter retainer. I'm looking for maybe something that says adapter. I'm just scrolling through here. I'm not seeing anything. Sometimes they're in here, sometimes they're not. You can add them if you want. Here's a slimline adapter. 54 to 38 adapter. I don't know what a slimline adapter is, so I'm just going to cancel out of the database. And so right now on my parts screen, if you can see it, it's right here. I got a new sphere showing up. It's green right now. And this is going to be my motor adapter. And I'm just going to type it in. But now I need a mass, and then I need to switch the position. And I can move the position pretty easy because I know it's going to go back here. So I'm just going to change the location of that motor adapter. I'm just going to put it right back here where I think all the weight is going to be concentrated. Notice here, this is another new feature in RockSim 10.5. We have a hide button, and this is only available on mass objects. And this would be a good condition to use this. You can hide the mass object from the weight of the rocket so it doesn't see it. So it's kind of like if you pulled your motor adapter out, you could still fly the rocket, and then you could put it back in and do more simulations with the motor adapter in. So this is a new feature. This was always, the ability to hide mass objects was always in RockSim, but it was a hidden feature. You didn't know it was there. In fact, I didn't even know it was there. Somebody pointed it out to me. They were clicking on things and they discovered how to hide it and unhide it. But we made it more formal where it's easier to hide and unhide. But I don't know the mass of this adapter, so how do I get that? So I'm going to go to the Apogee website and I'm going to search for an adapter and see what shows up. Okay, so it's not showing up here. Reload adapter system, 54 reload adapter system, motor adapters. Let me try that one. Nope. Okay, so I know where they're hidden. They're under shopping. Go to building supplies, and then go to, I'm looking at the pictures, looking for my motor adapters. Right there, motor mount kits and adapters. So click on that. And we want a motor adapter kit. And okay, so now they're sorted from smallest to biggest. So I'm going to jump here to like into the big sizes, 24 to 38. We want a 38 to 54. Okay, so there's one right there, an Aeropack 38 to 54 motor adapter. So I'm going to click on that, and here's the weight right here. So 86.5 grams. So I'm going to go back into RockSim, and that's what I'm going to use for my mass, 86.5 grams. Make sure your units are right, and then hit tab. And when you hit tab, you'll see the mass change here, or maybe it already changed. Nope, I got it hidden. So when I unhide it, this mass should jump up by 86.5 grams. And sure enough, it did. So that's what it does, is it kind of like pulls it out of the rocket, even though it's there, but it's not there. So make sure that you check this. I'm going to leave it hidden, and I'll show you where you'll see it. Click OK there. So now my motor adapter is added. So that's that motor adapter. There should be a little thing that says hidden here. See, if you right click on it, it says show hide, and that's how we found out that it was there. So what's going on? I just want to make sure it's not hidden. Okay, it's not hidden. I'll click OK. Okay, so that's that motor adapter, and now if I click on it, I just want to click on it, make sure it's, sure enough, it's still there. Now we can run our simulation. So I'm going to go to prepare for launch, choose an engine, and see right now it's showing just the 54 millimeter motor mounts, motors, but I want to show 38s. So I'm going to go show those that match or are smaller. So if I do that, now I see all the motors. And you can see I'm scrolling through them. You can see the different diameters. I can sort them by diameter just by clicking on the column. And so now they're sorted. And if I scroll down, I should eventually get to the 29s and then the 38s. Okay, so here's the 38 millimeter motors that will fit. I'm going to choose a J270. And I'm going to choose a 14-second delay, and I'm going to click OK. And what I wanted to look for, and this came up, somebody asked me this the other day, is what happens if you put a motor in a rocket and the motor mount is short. This one has a really long motor mount. But what if it's short? How do you tell if the motor is going to interfere with a bulkhead? And in RockSim, unfortunately, there's no way to tell except by actually looking at it. So I don't know if you can see it here, but we've got, it's kind of a rocket, it's translucent. There's the motor tube right here. And then this darker blue one here is the motor tube. So here's the motor tube, and this one does not stick out. So that's what you have to look for. You actually just have to look at it from the side view and see if it sticks out. So this motor will fly, and I can go and launch it. I just want to check where we're going to double check my simulation conditions here. Flight events. This has got dual deployment. So the main chute is at an altitude of 400 feet, and the drogue chute is set at Apogee. We're going to have to change the launch rod, make it 98 inches. Launch angle, we're going straight up. Launch conditions, we're at altitude 700 feet above sea level, and we got some wind of 6 miles an hour. And if I do flight profile, I can see what it's going to look like. So here's the rocket down here at the bottom. And when we launch it, you'll see the rocket take off. Here's smoke coming from the motor. The motor's burned out. Now it's coasting. It's well over 3,000 feet right now. I don't know if we're going to get to 4. Yeah, we got to 4,000. And it's hitting the top. Apogee, the parachute popped out. So that's the drogue chute. And it's falling pretty straight. And when we get down to an altitude of 400 feet, we'll see the main parachute come out. And I'm going to speed things up by grabbing the slider. You can see it's coming down pretty fast. We're at 700, 600, 500, 432. Okay, so now at this point, the main parachute came out. And you can see, you can kind of tell that the path came down straight, but when we got to this point, it kind of dog-legged. So that tells us that the main parachute came out. And this one landed only 292 feet away, so it's not too far away. So we're not going to have to walk too far to get it. So that's good. Our apogee point was within the weathercocking cone, these dashed lines right here. We want the rocket's apogee point, the highest point in the flight, to stay within that cone. That tells us it's going more up than sideways, because we don't want it to go sideways, because that's not safe and it makes for a longer walk. All right, so now we can see, we can check up here, velocity at deployment, 18 miles an hour, so that's okay. Coming off the launch rod, it was at 52 miles an hour. What I'm looking for is some of these other things over here. The weathercocking was safe and deployment was safe. So this was actually a really good flight. So you can, the second part of his question was how do you tell if these are safe flights? Well, one is you're looking at them, and you're looking at these conditions right here. You can also run the recommended motors. And again, you go to prepare for launch. Then you just click on this button right here. And I'm going to say there's this thing that says use smaller motor diameters too. So I'm going to click OK. And the engine type, I'll just do single use to do a shorter number of motors. Otherwise, if we do reloads, there's hundreds of them. I'm going to make it a 8-foot long launch rod. And we'll just do the Aerotech motors. And then just says run recommended conditions, and it's going to run 61 motors. So that's 54s and 38s. It usually it's not going to run all the smaller motors, smaller than 38. I think it just does one size down. You see, it runs the simulation twice. And the first time it did 61, now it's doing 30. So approximately 31 motors it didn't like. And it says Roxam not recommended. That's this column right here under the recommended motors tab. So before I was under the flight simulation tab. Now when you hit the recommend motors, it jumps to the recommended motor tab. And it shows you all the motors that it ran. Most of them it did not like. If you only want to see the recommended ones, you can sort so that all the recommended are in one spot, or you can right click on it, on that column, and then just say show only the recommended motors. And now it will kind of be a shorter list. So these are the recommended. I'm just looking. So now the next question is, which of these motors is a 54, a 38, or 29, or smaller? And from this chart, unfortunately, I can't tell unless I know the motor diameter in my mind already. So I would have to go and find it. So I could go G125. I can go back to the RockSim motor list. So if I go to choose motor, now I'm looking for a G125. So I'm going to sort by the engine code and then scroll down to where I get to my G's. So here's a G125, and look, it's a 29 millimeter motor. So that motor is a 29. But that's how I had to find out that it's a 29. But that is a recommended motor. RockSim says that should be safe to fly. So I would probably be okay with it. It doesn't go very high, only about 386 feet. But yeah, that's a 4-second delay, so you'd have to really drill down and adjust the delay by drilling it out to get down to 4 seconds, because I don't think that's a normal delay. So that was the quick way of putting in a motor adapter, is just to use a mass object. It's fast, it didn't take us any time. The long way, it would be to actually create a set of parts inside of this tube. So on this motor tube, if I right now it's a 54. If I wanted to put a 38 in, I'd have to start building it out of the components. So I'd probably need a motor tube and then two centering rings, one on each end of that motor tube, to create my motor adapter. So that's the long way, because you're adding parts. And once those parts are in there, I guess you could add them as a subassembly. So you could save it and pull it in and out of your design. But using the mass object is so much easier. Let me check my questions over here. Oh, we got people talking again. Last week we had a lot of questions, and maybe we're going to get a lot more. Terry Wheelock says, design a Concorde SST in RockSim. I can maybe show you something that's close. Johan says, I have an Estes low boom SST. Cool. Unfortunately, toasted the extended engine tube after second flight. So he had to reinforce it. Chris Swainson says, is there a new RockSim update? And I talked about that at the beginning of this video. There is a new update. It should be available very early next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. I am using the new update myself right now, but we should get that out pretty quick because it's done. Johan said, maybe nice question or to show how Roxam handles asymmetric fins and stability calculations over 360 degrees. Okay, I can try to answer that one, Johan. Fatbank says, Tim said it should be available Tuesday, might be released on Monday, maybe. Carlos says, I'm building a super rock, so I am joining tubes and joining tubes end to end with couplers, glues, and prayers. Any RockSim or finishing painting tips? So what a super rock is, it's just a really long rocket, and it's got a lot of couplers in it. So if you're looking for painting tips, there's a lot of information on the Apogee website. Go to How To and Guides. Come down here to Peak of Flight newsletter. Click on that, and then go over here to All Newsletters. And you'll find them in here. So I'm going to search on this page for painting tips. Don't use the search bar because this will search the entire website. I only want to search this page because I know this is where the information is going to be. So to do that on your computer, do a Control F on the keyboard. On the Macintosh, it's Command F, and it brings up a special search bar that will only search the page. And I'm going to say paint. And it tells me there's 4 matches that have the word paint. And if it could include the word painting, because painting does include the word paint. So you can just scroll through these. It says techniques for challenging paint jobs, how to build and prep a model rocket for paint. I'd probably start with that one there, Carlos. In fact, I'm going to click on it right now. Open it in a new tab. How to build a model rocket for paint. Yeah, this one was written by John Bourne. I don't know if you recognize that name, but John Bourne works as a designer at Estes, and he makes gorgeous rockets. And he wrote this article on the techniques that he uses to prepare his rocket for painting. So Carlos, this one is what you should start with. Really good article about sealing fins, filling all the wood grain in the fins. Excellent article right there. Ernesto Medina is the new name. I am very new to the sport. Moved from Estes Amazon to building Lock 4 for a level 1 certification next month. Cool. Would you please give a quick intro to the different programs? Okay. We have good weather for rockets in Colorado Springs today. No, it's not good weather. He's joking around. Today, we rarely have fog, and today we have fog, particularly this time of year. I mean, normally Colorado is 300 days of sunshine every year. So it's rare that we have fog. Fatbank asks, do launch lugs and rail buttons affect aerodynamics in RockSim? And the answer is yes, it does. And you can see that if you go here in RockSim, if you go to the rocket menu and then come down here to CD analysis, you'll see right here there's a CD type of lugs. Right now we're not seeing anything because we're at 0 miles an hour, but as soon as you move the velocity up, you can see that the launch lugs on this particular rocket contribute 5.6% of the drag. So yes, that's an easy question to answer. Okay, but there was a question here above that I said. So we have an SST question and an asymmetric fins question. Okay, I can answer both of those with the same rocket design. So what I want to do, I want to go back to the Apogee website because I want to find a rocket that looks like an SST. So I know there's a Semrock rocket. They did a reproduction of an Estes. So if you click on shop and then come down here to rockets by manufacturer, click on that, and I'm going to scroll down until I get to the Semrock rockets. Okay. Starship Vega. I'm looking, I'm trying to remember the name. Could be the USS America. Let me open that in a new tab. Okay, so this has wings on it, but that's not the one that I wanted. That would work. Let me blow that up so you can see it. So that's not quite supersonic SST style. It's not the Andromeda, UFO Invader, Starship Vega, or Starship Excalibur. Nope, not Starship Excalibur. Maybe Starship Vega. Nope, not Vega. One last time. If I don't find it, then Vertical Transport Super Hornet Hydro Defender. I don't know. We'll go with the USS America. Okay, so I'm going back to RockSim. So the difference, Ernesto, the difference between RockSim, Roxanne Pro, and the launch visualizer. RockSim was the first one we came out with. And it's our most popular because it can do a lot and the price point is pretty reasonable. And then we came out with Roxam Pro, which has more features than RockSim, and it has what's called the launch visualizer built into it. But so it's 6 degrees of freedom. So I don't know if you remember when I showed you the 2D flight profile. So this is the 2D flight profile. It's this button right here, and it shows you, the trajectory of the rocket. Well, this is just a 2-dimensional representation. Roxam Pro is 3D because of the launch visualizer. I think I have Roxam Pro open. Yes, I do. Okay, so here's Roxam Pro. It looks a lot like RockSim. The difference is it still has that profile, but instead of seeing it in 2 dimensions, just a flat screen, it's going to be 3 dimensions, and it's going to be on the Earth. So let's open up the USS America. We'll kind of see if we can talk about a lot of different things all at once. USS America. Oh, there it is. No. Okay, right here. Semrock USS America rocket. Click open. Save changes to that one? No. Okay, so here's the back view of the rocket. If I look at it from a 3D perspective, there's the rocket in 3D. It's all blue, which means that I didn't design it because I don't design blue rockets. But this is an asymmetrical design because in a normal symmetrical design, I would have, see these two fins here that extend vertically. If it was symmetrical, I should have fins coming out the bottom as well. So this is an asymmetric design because no matter which angle you look at it, it's different each way. On a normal rocket, kind of like here, the Peregrine Junior, no matter which way I look at it, it's symmetrical all the way around. And so that's symmetrical. This one right here is asymmetrical. And so how does Roxam handle that? If I look at it from a base view, so you can zoom in. I'm using my scroll wheel to zoom in. And then you can click and drag it around. So we want to know if this rocket's going to be stable or not by looking at this base view because it's an asymmetrical design. So if I go here to, is it under guide settings? No, cancel. I think it's under the preferences. So go to preferences. Okay, so under the 2D drawing tab, which is, so the preferences for this screen right here, there is a base view decorations, and I can show, by default it's not checked, but you can turn this on, and I can show also a grid angle here. And when I click OK, you'll see that this has changed. So let me detach this window here. Make this bigger. So this is the bottom of the rocket. And you'll notice there's this green band around here. And it almost looks circular, but you can tell it's not really a circle. And this gives me, at a glance, it's telling me that this rocket should fly okay. Because if you're seeing green here on this band, that's okay. If it was red, that would be a problem. That means from one direction, if the wind was hitting it at a weird angle, this rocket could go unstable. So by seeing it in green, whenever you're doing an asymmetrical design, you want to look at this stability chart right here. And again, how I got there was I went to the preferences. On the Mac, they're under the Roxam Pro menu or the Roxam menu. This is Roxam and Roxam Pro. Both of the programs have this feature. It's under preferences. I think under Windows, if you're on a Windows computer, I think the preferences are under the edit menu. But I'm on a Mac, so here's my preferences. And you can see you go to the 2D drawing tab. Here's the 3D, here's the 2D. And then you make sure under base view to show the stability graph overlay and the grid angle. If I turn the grid angle off, you can see you're just seeing the green line. So if I go back to preferences, turn that back on, click OK, and it kind of tells me, you know, from what wind direction this might be unstable. So let's make an unstable rocket and see what happens. So to make that go back down there, I just double clicked in the bar, but you can also drag it. Let me detach it again. You can also just drag the bar right here, and I can put it here at the top of the screen, or I can drag it down here to the bottom. And I typically like mine on the bottom, so just let go right there, and it will just snap right into position. All right, so let's modify this rocket and look at it from Let's see if we can make it unstable. So we got a pod right here, and I don't know. See, this is a rocket I did not design myself, and I can tell I didn't design it because I would give everything names. So he's got, this is a pod. He's calling it 3. That one's 2, and that one's 1. It might be these things right here. I am not quite sure. Well, they have a nose cone and a body tube and a fin set on them. So it might be, well, I don't know. The only way to tell is to actually delete them. So before you delete anything, because there's no undo feature in RockSim. So if you want to delete something and then bring it back, what you do is you save the design, delete it, and if you want to bring it back, is you open up the original design that you saved. So keep that in mind if you're going to start deleting things. So this pod number 1, which I have no idea where it is. Actually, let me see if I can see it from a side view. I think it might be right here. Yep, it opened it up in a new window over here. Okay, so that's the pod right here that we're looking at. So I was right. It is attached to this fin. Click cancel. So I want to find the pod. Let me look at it in a top view. I want to find this nose cone right here. So there's that nose cone. So that's this pod. And this pod probably includes this entire wing. So I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to cut that. And it's asking me, do I really want to cut it? So to get that, let me cancel it here. So to delete it, I just right clicked on it with my mouse. You can also go to edit and do a cut. It's the same thing, cut. And it's going to ask you, do you really want to delete it? I'm going to say yes. And sure enough, it deleted it. But it left these pods down here at the bottom, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to delete those as well. Yes. Cut that one, say yes. And cut this one, say yes. Okay, so now we have a rocket. And if I look at it from the base view, it's still showing that it's okay. These fins are big enough that there's enough stability to make this rocket fly mostly okay. I'm going to delete something else here. I want to zoom in. Let's delete this fin right there. Cut that one, say yes. We're still stable. Let's delete this fin right here. Cut that one, say yes. Do you see when we cut it, we lost a little bit of stability here. When this green line, let me show you that again. See this line right here? This kind of represents the center of gravity, and this kind of represents the center of pressure. So as long as the center of pressure is behind the center of gravity, it's going to be stable. But if this divot right here came in to this point right there, then we're going to see it being unstable. So let's delete some more things. Let's delete that fin right there, cut, say yes. It moved it in a little bit more. I'm trying to delete anything that's kind of south of this center line. So if I take that fin right there, cut it, say yes. A little bit more unstable. Take this one, cut that one, say yes. Let's do one more. Cut, yes. I saw the center of gravity also shift in a little bit. I don't know if you noticed that but it moved just so slightly in, and that's reasonable because we took weight off the back of the rocket. I'm going to have a hard time making this one unstable. We have to try deleting these nose cones, because nose cones are, they add stability. Delete. Oops. What happened? Oh, I had a crash. RoxSim crashed, or that was Roxam Pro. That was not the newest version, that was an older version. But it's the same thing here. This is that lock EZI 65. So I can go again to the stability, preferences, show stability, click OK. And if I go look at it at the base view, you can see this one's really stable. And if I go to the fins, where's my fins? Right here. Let's split the fins. So right now, this is a set of fins. It's a set of 3. If I split them, I'm going to break them up into 3 individual fins. I'm going to say yes. And that crashed. Oh my goodness. That shouldn't have happened. Let's see if we can do that again. Easy eye. Okay, so here's the rock again. So we went to the design components, we went to the custom fins, and we split the fins. Say yes. Okay, so it split them. So I got fin 1, 2, and 3. It left the same name, but these are individual fins. So I'm going to take this fin right here and delete it. Say yes. Click this one, delete, say yes. And now let's look at it. Stability graph overlay. And I want to look at the base view because that's where it's shown. Okay, so on this particular graph, you can see that it is unstable if the wind on this one comes from the 0-degree direction or the 180-degree direction. So anywhere, so this is 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, so these are 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So each of these lines is 10 degrees apart. So we're looking at approximately 15 degrees. So 15 degrees, minus 15 degrees, 165 degrees, or a negative 165 degrees, or 180 plus 15 is 195 degrees. So I'm just remembering those numbers, because what I'm going to do is now I want to show you, Ernesto, what the launch visualizer is. Okay, so we're going to save this design. So this is a 1-fin rocket. So if we look at it in 3D, it's just 1 fin. And in some directions, this rocket's going to will fly okay, but in other directions, it's not. So I'm going to do a file save as. I'm going to throw it on my desktop. EZI 65 1 fin. Hit save. So I saved it. Now I'm going to go to the launch visualizer. Now the launch visualizer is in the cloud. It's on a website. So you got to open up a new window, new browser window, and then you just go to rocksim.com. And this brings up the launch visualizer. And it's hopefully my internet connection is fast today. Okay, so I'm going to log in because you need an account to do this. So sign in. Okay, so now I'm logged in, and I can tell that because the login button went away, and now if I click on my profile, I can see I'm a premium user. I'm going to upload the new rocket design that we just created. And I'm going to hit browse, and it's going to look on my desktop. I am looking for that easy eye. Where did I save it? Oh, shoot, I don't remember where I saved it. File, save as. I put it in the lock. Let me resave it as on the desktop. Save. 'Cause I just want to know where I put it. So now when I go to browse, I should see it on my desktop. Desktop. Date modified. There it is. Easy I-65 one fin dash rocket. Open it. I'm going to upload it to the cloud. This will take just a second. Okay, so here's the rocket sitting on the launch pad. Oops, I zoomed in too far. This you can rotate around. You can see I've got one fin, just like I designed it. And the wind is coming from this direction, from the west. We said if the wind is coming from the 0 direction, you know, kind of like 15 degrees west of north or 15 degrees east of north, this rocket will go unstable. But in this direction, where it's coming from, it might be stable. So first let's launch it and see what this trajectory looks like. We should be stable or close to it. This is the launch site. It's loading the map right now, but this is the SCORE launch site. This is where I launch from in Pueblo, Colorado. And again, this is a 3D environment. So this is Pueblo is off this direction. North is down this way. I can swing this around and make north straight up. Okay, so now north is this way. Our launch site is southwest of Pueblo, so this road right here, if you follow that road, it would go into Pueblo. Starting state, we're launching straight up. And our wind is a steady wind, and we need to know what the direction is. So our direction is 270 degrees. And so from what we saw earlier, it should be stable. Let's make it 6 mile an hour wind. Click OK. Now we choose a rocket motor right here. Choose an engine. Click on it. There we go. Here's an I-65. That's exactly where the name of this kit comes from. EZ I-65, so that's kind of like they designed this particular kit around this motor because it's a long burn motor. It burns for 8.26 seconds, and so people wanted a long burn motor that was safe. So we'll choose a custom delay, and we'll give it 14 seconds. Just, I don't know what to use, but we'll try that. Click OK. Then we're going to go to flight events. This has 2 parachutes. Remember, we have one, they're both in the upper stage. One of them is the main chute, and one is the drogue chute. So the drogue chute we want to deploy at Apogee, and the main chute at an altitude, we'll call it 400 feet. So you have to first set the altitude and then give it a number, and then hit tab. Okay, so at this point it's ready to launch, and so we're going to launch it. It tells us how much credits we're going to use to simulate this. And it's running the simulation right now. Okay, so it's loading the maps. That's why all that flashing is going on there. So I'm just zooming out. Here's my flight line right here. Here's the launch pads. The rocket sitting on the launch pad. Let me turn on some things here to remember my camera view. I want to see the weathercocking cone that we talked about in RockSim, and I want to see the trajectory path, and I want to see the extruded flight path. So the extruded flight path is the path along the ground. Click OK. So now you can kind of see the cone, and I'm zooming out because the launch visualizer will give me a kind of an indication on how high the rocket's going to go by the height of the cone. So already I know that this rocket's going to go mostly, well, it's going to go up, and it's going to go up at least that high. So here's the rocket down there, and then I can just click the launch, and the rocket is taking off, and I got a large view right here. And the rocket, at this point, it goes unstable. So it went mostly straight, but then it went it's still burning, and now it became stable again. Look at that. Wow. I did not expect that. I want to see that in a kind of a set view. Look at that. So the rocket took off. So remember, down here was our flight line. It took off. It went mostly straight, and then it kind of arced over. But then it became stable again and went back up. And then it deployed the parachute and then came down. That is awesome. It still had enough velocity that it just kept on going. And it reached an altitude of 680 feet. Then it's coming down. When it gets to 400 feet, the main parachute comes out. Let me pause it right there, and let's zoom in. So you can see it was it released the drogue chute at Apogee, and that's that red point. And then it came down. And then at 400 feet, which is right there, the main parachute pops out. And you can see the dogwheel egg that's characteristic of a dual deployment. And it's a blue parachute popped out. Yeah, that's an interesting trajectory. The red dot indicates that it is outside of the cone. Remember, we'd like to see the apogee point, the highest point inside of this cone, and this one is definitely on the outside. So this is definitely a flight that is not okay, and that's a really cool flight though. Let's change the simulation. So now we're going to move the wind around, and I'm going to go here to the wind model and I'll click on that again. So right now the wind was coming from 270. Let's change it to coming from the north. You can just click and drag. My mouse is so huge that it's hard for me to drag, so I'll just type in the number. So now the wind is going to come out of the north, and from this direction the rocket should always be unstable because it's not hitting any fin at all. So you can see my arrow, the wind, it's coming out of the north. I got my one fin, and the one fin is hidden in the shadow of the body tube. I'm going to leave the motor alone, and I'm just going to launch it and see what happens. So I expect a different trajectory than what we just saw. It still says it's going to go about 32 seconds. Oops, I need to back off. I'm zooming out. Oh, I got pretty much the same trajectory. Should have been different. I was expecting something different. Let's look at it from a different view. I'm going to pause it and then start it again. Oops, stop it. Start it again. So as it comes off, it's not rolling at all. Only right there did it start to roll. And then it got stable again. And I don't know how come it got stable again. Should have gone unstable. But that is asymmetric fins, how to tell if it's going to be stable, and also the differences between RockSim, Roxam Pro, and the Launch Visualizer. The Launch Visualizer, what you see on the screen right now, is already built into RoxM Pro. So RoxM Pro allows you to design rockets and simulate them, where just the Launch Visualizer that's in the cloud on the website rocksim.com, it only does the simulations. It doesn't allow you to design a rocket. So those are the simple differences between the three different softwares. An orbital transport. Yeah, I could have looked at the orbital transport too. Jeff Gortowski says, just finished the Aerodactyl. Cool. That's awesome. It's a great rocket. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions that I haven't answered yet. Oh man, we got a lot of people in the house again today. Thank you everybody for showing up. Johan says, are we also exploring digital boundaries here? Could be. It's possible. We are over time again, so it is time to quit. I'm sad to go. It was a lot of fun working with you again today. So we will be back again same time next Friday afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Mountain Time Zone, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. So today is the 7th, so that will be October 14th. That will be episode number 91. By then, the Peregrine rocket will be released, the Peregrine Junior. The Peregrine is already out. The Peregrine Junior will be out. So now you can have two of them, a small one and a bigger one. We're also doing the Katana, but the Katana Junior is a little bit further behind. There's something special about the Katana Junior, but I don't want to release that right now. And then, as I said earlier, which is kind of hush-hush, we've got the gliding parachute coming out on October 25. And that's going to... I had so much fun flying that thing last weekend. I flew it every launch that I did just to see, to explore. It's experimental. So we're going to end this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go out and launch something.